Monday, the 3rd of November. It only just seems like yesterday when we were saying October the 3rd. Next month is Christmas, everybody, and it's all coming thick and fast. Let me know how we're doing. What have we got in the chat already? We've got Scott says, I swear down, if I see Sean Delow in the team on the weekend, I'm going to freak out. Scott Delow will definitely start. I hate to say it, mate. Bobby and Scott, legends of the chat, as you always are. Some of the most fantastic mods and people on this community. And to that end, I'll always say, please feel free to get into this community. We may not be the biggest, but we are the best. One of the best communities. I love exactly what we do on here. Some of the most amazing people, some of the most amazing rival fans. The one thing I do say is please get into the chat. Please be respectful. Be respectful to the community firstly. Be respectful to the moderators, and be respectful to me, and be respectful to yourselves. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes down. And of course, you guys, I really hate to do it. I'm not a dictator of this chat as well. So basically, guys, your opinions count. This way, these shows take so long, and it takes so long because I do read all of your chats. That's what we do differently here. Now, let me know in the chat if the quality is okay today. I've just been trying to find all solutions for the internet. Just give me a second. Let me know what the stream is like today. Is it clear? Is it fuzzy? If it's fuzzy, then I'm going to have to switch over again. Morning to Danny B. I want to know today what you thought about the weekend. So again, much like other weekends, perfect. Good. I was in another channel last night and the guy was toxic, saying that Amorim needs to be sacked. And Scott and mate, this is what we do here. And as Scott knows, and you guys hopefully do, is that we are not that channel. We are consistent, and I remain consistent in my views, not because I'm a miserable old git, but just because I've seen this game and I've seen this time and time again. We can talk about that, so get in there with what you've seen. I'll be interested to know, and I think that's probably where I'm going to start today. That's why I've got the two suspects on the not because I'm gonna go into them necessarily, but because I think it's really important that they typify look. I've got my opinions on them, and I'm going to defend some of the stuff, and I'm also going to give you my honest opinion on that, because I think it's really important to get into that. Again, I've been consistent in what I've said about, we can't trust these players. I've said this time and time again, that we can't trust these players. Yet we get this big, and this is what annoyed me more than anything last week, is this big swing and shift by some of these channels who are bigger. I'm not going to name names, but all this talk of winning the Premier League, all this talk of Champions League football, which all of that is still possible. Name and shame the clowns, exactly that. So I think what we do here, and I'll give you my opinion on it as to where I am. And I think that one of the things that we do here, Scott, and anyone else in the chat, is I am consistent. I've been consistent, and I will remain consistent. The consistencies that I have are, number one, is I do not trust these players. I trusted these players on the weekend. Look at what happened. I still don't believe that it is the manager. It is the coach. I cannot stand this flip-flop. Even when we lost to when we lost the Grimsby game, I was still Amorim in. I got destroyed. Amorim outers, and I'm still maintained since pre-season. I watched the whole of the pre-season games. Some of you watched that with me. I was always of the opinion that this is not the manager's team. This team finished 15th, and I'll keep repeating the same thing over and over again. It is not the manager necessarily. Already ban. Look, the ban hammer's come out. We're not doing that today. So And this is where consistency comes in. So I think, as we say, let's talk about the game. We can talk about consistency. Let's talk about the game, and then I think it's our responsibility and my responsibility to tell you where I'm at on it, and you guys can make up your own opinion on it. So I think what we saw on the weekend was what I've been saying since pre-season. Doesn't mean that I'm right on this one, but the things I saw a lot of last season with player IQ, the mentality of players, how these players cannot get up for big games. You know, they go away from home, they cannot be a low block. We're going to have to find a way. We don't have the players to play Amorim's way of playing. I think these, as much as I do blame these players, I still think that these players, look, these are still top level players, some of them, right? And the way that I see it is that a lot of these have been asked to play a system that they don't normally play. Now they are starting to play it to a degree. Now, the problem is the fundamental issue is that ultimately this goes down to the mentality of players. Now, the reason why I believe this to be true, not because fact, because what I believe that this to be true, is if you look at the Forest team, really, really simple, Sean Dyche, right? Not going to put the guy down because, you know, Premier League coach. I need to put on a light. Is that better? So, Premier League coach, proven guy, right? This is a team that's currently sitting 18th, right? 18th in the league. Beat Porto. I've got decent players, and when it counted in a game that they knew they couldn't lose, mentality-wise, they even though they still know their faults, they did the simple things well. They pressed. First ball, second ball, wanted to win absolutely everything. Now, what epitomised that for me was the Sirona corner. Now, obviously, there's a debate whether or not Sirona, you know, the ball was in or out. I think that debate is a remiss debate. It doesn't really matter to me about that. What the important thing for me was about that was that Sirona busted a gut to keep that ball in, right? He sprinted after that ball, okay, to try to keep it in. That, for me, is where I would be annoyed on the basis that, was it in or out? Nothing much that he could do. That wasn't his fault. He did every single thing that he could to keep the ball in. Our players sat and watched that guy chase a ball that he could have just left, but no. That for me epitomised the difference between the two. Our players couldn't be bothered again, and to bear this in mind as well, Forest played a midweek game, and again a game that they had to win. We have one game a week, so how can it be formation, the tactics? Amorim and these players get a week. They get in a 2-week period, right? Other than a match day, right? Other than 90 minutes on that pitch, right? He's got however many hours, weeks, seconds it is within a week's period to teach these players. It is not the formation. This is how I know it's not the formation. It's not formation. It's not the tactics. These players are drilled. If you do something, the same thing, every single week, week in, week out, you're eventually going to get into your brain. And the reason why you can't then perform is because it's either your ability or because of the mentality. And I'm not saying that all of these players, but as Scott says there, we lack mentality, we lack... One second.
I've got to give Isabel her medicine. She needs to get to that in the morning.
Sorry about that. have a little intruder who is not supposed to be here today, but they are unwell. So if you can hear some coughing, it basically is because I do have a little intruder to the side. Do some stuff. Cool. So I do have a little intruder to the side who is now going to be part of the stream today, who you'll probably hear her coughing away. So anyway, so look, lack of intensity, lack of mentality, and I think that was the difference between the two sides. Is I just don't understand with a week in between how we can actually not perform in that way. You'll end up, mate. I've got no. It is what it is. I sort of have to. Hang on a sec. Honestly. Right. Right. Anyway, back again. So that's where we are. So I think that is the first thing that needs to be said. Now, this is why I thought it was irresponsible of the channels this week to be talking about Champions League places. And then when I constantly get asked, where do I think that we'll finish in the league? Now, this is where I will maintain my stance and my standards on this is what I'm of the opinion that we will still finish between 8th and 10th, just purely because we finished 15th last season. Most of the players are still here. There's a big chunk who are not. There's a big chunk in the team, but we still absolutely have the same mentality as last week. Now, Bobby says, JB, why does Amorim still play Diego Dalot? Is it because he's Portuguese? I think it is. And I wanted just to come on to that as well. Now, I am Amorim in for whatever it's worth, and just purely because of the reasons that I've stated in many videos out there as to me, and I still believe that to be true. However, there are still things that concerns me. As Scott says, friends, Portuguese friends, oh, we're friends, Portuguese friends, oh, friends. But that is there are still, I think so, Bobby. And this is one of the things that concerns me. And this is why if you were Amorim out, I don't always. I get it. I get why you would be, because there are some decisions for me that are football friends, football friends, friends, you're my friend, friends. But it is. And do I think there are better options? I do. Now, I was looking at his stats, and the reason why he's on the thumbnail. So what I wanted to first and foremost say, look, this player is not good enough. He's not good enough. Where I will not accept, and I do not accept, is the abuse. Now, the abuse that he gets, I do not accept that. Personal abuse, I don't. And I know people get frustrated, and I know people, are passionate and they pay their money. But the first and foremost thing I will say, I will not tolerate any abuse against this player, because I don't think any players deserve abuse. I've seen some vile things against him. Yes, you can be bad at your job, but to then have some of these things that have been said about him, I just absolutely just cannot get on board with that. And I just simply do not agree. Nick says, who do you think I'd offend? What do you think I'd offend? Okay, so Nick, I think what's obvious to me, I think as we saw, so the prime thing for me, which epitomised what our defence is. There is a gaping hole. There are two gaping holes, okay, in the pivot. When we were wide open, the midfield is non-existent. I went back and watched the game again. Now, if I could score the plays differently, I would. But there's a gaping hole. The reason why I've put these two players on the front, including Luke Shaw, is because, look, I'm trying not to make this player, because these players don't pick themselves, right? But if you're looking for the epitome as to why this team needs players, and hence that's why the Guehi thing is on the thumbnail, because if there's an opportunity to sign him, because the way that we play, if you look at the way that we play between the left-sided centre back and the left wing back, or on either side, if there is any miscommunication, if there is any gap, you will get in between that. And what we saw, Anderson targeted that side again. Now, I get people like different players, people like Luke Shaw, people like, now this is, let's just take Luke Shaw's name out of it, right? Because I don't want to drive agendas against players, but unfortunately, he is the one that's playing. And when you've got a player like that, who is been injured for the best part of 4 years, who's like, I mean, he got absolutely annihilated for pace. He's got no pace. The first half, he did some really, really good things, but he was making up for his own mistakes. He was making up for his partners, his Portuguese partners' mistakes. And those two, there is a gap down there. There's a huge gap. And when you've got a gap and you're supposed to have a solid back three, any gap there, and that's where the issues are from. I'm trying not to make this play-based. We know both these players, in my opinion, are not good enough. I do feel sorry for Shaw. I do, because I think, so when I watch Shaw, I'm going to be fair to him here. Like, I'm trying not to. I'm not going to use names and terms for these players, because these players are picking. I'm not picking themselves, right? Luke Shaw does things phenomenally well. There are certain characteristics and things that I saw, like, you know, when the tackles that he made, right? Some of the tackles and some of the positionings that he got in the box. So when the play is very, very static, he's very, very good at that, right? Milo Liverpool FC says hi, a Liverpool fan here. Hi, my friend, and again, well done on the weekend. I said Liverpool would be back at some point, so you know, hence this is why I keep the mentality that I do. But Luke Shaw has to go. You know, there was one ball over the top from Anderson, and basically Luke Shaw was at a position, he's constantly out of position. Yeah, and there was one ball, and I mean, the pair of them were caught. I mean, at some time, the pair of them were just caught. I'm not going to answer. Look, I like everybody. I don't base my personable likes on where people are from. Sigma, I base where I like people on them and on their personality and who they are. Nothing to do with where they're from. And that's what the problem is. And when we're talking about coaches in and out on players, Amorim is picking these players. And this is why, for me, Amorim still has a lot to learn. Amorim still has to take a lot of this blame. Scott says, I'm sick of seeing other channels saying Amorim out or should have been sacked. This is why half the fan base are toxic. Like to throw managers under the bus when the tactics don't play out. Do you recall what you were doing in 2006? In 2006, I was 23. So, Alicia, pretty much, I was 23. I don't recall the exact. No, yeah, I do. In 2006, I was buying my first flat. That's what I was doing in 2006. How CR7? Hi, how are you? What are your thoughts on the last match? And I will get into that as well, my friend. Dark Knight says, DJ, I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. I was in year 9 at school. I was buying my first flat, Scott. What are your thoughts on the last match? Look, CR7, what are my thoughts? My thoughts are this. Amorim picked the wrong team. He keeps persevering with his Portuguese friends, which I've always said this, and I will die on this hill. I'll die on this hill. Bruno Fernandes, that decision is going to make or break his season. And then a certain other Portuguese, like I'm trying not to bring in names here because, you know, I don't want to drive an agenda. There's another certain Portuguese left, right, wing back that Bobby says in 2006 I was in Afghanistan. Bobby, mate, let's take a second for Bobby in Afghanistan. Bobby, legend, mate. I don't say this in in a disrespectful way, sir, but I absolutely, you know, legend Bobby, you know, and when we're talking about community, right, and when we're talking about community and the sort of people that we have on here, we've got, you know, and again, we have all sorts of amazing people on here, but again, you know, people like that, you know, who fight for the country. I mean, what can you say? You know, there's legend. Exactly, respect to Bobby. So look, what do I think of the match? I thought that we were very poor. Mentality, it's all about mentality. They can't consistently keep their mentality. I think some of these players get frustrated with some of the players who they know are not pulling their weight. I think Amorim set us up wrong. I think we doesn't mean, I think, like Amorim, I was 9, Alicia says I was 9 living in San Francisco in 2006. So wow, I feel old, Alicia, thank you for that. I'm kidding. I just think we lacked energy, desire, just the basics. I think we lacked the basics. So I think that is what was wrong. I don't think it was about. I think it's about ability with some of these players, but also I think the manager gets it wrong, and I also think that there's still a mentality problem with these players. So look, I think the 2 players on the thumbnail, I'm just going to try not to mention their names. Me mentioning their names does help the algorithm, but no, I'm not. You know, those 2 players for me epitomise the types of players that we don't need in this team anymore. David says, to me, we just need a bit more. David, look, I agree with that statement. I do, but I think that it's. I think it's a little bit more than that. Whilst I do agree with you, I think the pivot doesn't work. I think the pivot's got the wrong plays in it completely, as we all know. Again, we at times I find myself getting sick and tired of talking about, not talking about it with us guys, but just talking about a manager who is insistent on playing this pivot. And yes, it works, and when it works, people forget about it. I don't. You know, there's somebody on here called Blue Moon Tiger who comes on and constantly says to me, you know, oh, why don't you support this team? You know, when they're I should blindly support this team. You know, I shouldn't be critiquing these players, criticising these players at all in game, and I should be going, oh great, they're brilliant, oh we're winning, oh we're brilliant, oh you know. But this is why I don't do it, because I'm consistent. The things that I consistently say, if you go back, cool. There you go. And this is why, if you go back, the things that I do say are basically the same things. I say, and I repeat the same thing over and over again. Alicia says, thank you for sharing experience. Not a problem at all. David says, Dorgu looked good at first, but for whatever reason he doesn't get picked. No, as Barry White says, we just love you just the way you are. I love that. That is cool. I love it. So look, we're going to see more of those games until and we will segue into the window as well, because I think that is where we need to. And Billy Joel, he did, David, he did sing that as well. So let's go into the January window. So this is coming from Fabrizio Romano, and we can talk about that. So you know, again, then I'm not pulling these stats out of my backside. You know, these are coming from the likes of Fabrizio, and basically what he had to say on this is that what Amorim wants, Amorim, he doesn't want short term. What Amorim wants, there were 3 operations You're stealing the chat, my friend, because you are an absolute legend. So look, Amorim wants some signings. Amorim doesn't want short term. So when we had earlier reports, and I was of the opinion that maybe we'd be looking into the loan market for the likes of Conor Gallagher at Atletico, maybe a ter Stegen, these sorts of players. Scott says Amorim don't mind more players, not short term, he want long term players. And that's Scotty segue, my friend. And this is what Romano says, is that he doesn't want short term players. Now Amorim keeps mentioning what is needed when he's talking about players. He's saying he doesn't want players for the short term. Also Romano confirming that take this how you want, because I think we should be talking about players before. Kone's back after a head injury. David, I'll make a note of that because I think young players get mentioned a lot and we can talk about that as well. So Amin's basically saying there are two things here that they're going to discuss. The players that want to leave, they can leave. So those players who want to leave can leave, or they're going to discuss maybe a way for those players to get some playing time. Additionally, Amorim only wants players who want to play for the club, but also long term. We're not looking at the Zabitzes of the world. We're not looking at the Agalos of the world. We're not looking at those sorts of what's his name? What was his name? Amrabat. We're looking at players who are going to make a difference now, who are going to come in and who are going to be here for next season. Now, I want to know what you think about that. Bless you. Would you rather just sign players for bodies and get some players in case we get injured, or are you of the opinion that we shouldn't sign any short-term players, or just get players? Let's have a look. Amorim, Kane's back. We'll look into that, Bobby, a few moments, mate. We're who does he want? So for here, so we are looking at the likes of Steeler. Now we'll come on to Steeler because I think that if I was Amorim at the prices that are being spoken about, and because there is a factor here, there is the World Cup factor, and I think there's an opportunity here, because I think if we wait till the World Cup, I think we're not going to get these players as easily as we may want, and it's going to take time. So I think you could almost do a summer transfer signing now, and I do think that's what we should do, and I tell you as to why I think, or who we should get. So after the game, Anderson was the one he was talking to, sharing a laugh and a joke, and he wants him. Look, if we're talking about auditions to play for this club, now people will come back at us and say, "Oh, you're a mid-table team. Who's going to want to play for us?" We're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. We are the biggest club in England. People are going to want to play for us, right? And that's not an arrogant thing. Those are facts based on numbers. What is fact is we are an irrelevant club in terms of title talk, despite what other channels are saying now, which is bugging me. And now they've gone quiet again. But players do want to come. So if we're talking about auditions, Anderson more than passed that audition. Maybe you could argue. Look, we weren't at our best. Would Anderson do it at Anfield? You don't know. But if you're looking at an audition, then that is an audition, and he passed it big time. So Amorim really, really likes him. I also think that Amorim. I think Baleba is still there, but again, auditions was, I think he failed that for now. So I think Steeler, for me, Steeler is the one that I would go for. I think Steeler is the one. I think Anderson's going to be 100 million plus. I think Baleba could possibly be that as well. I think Steeler, his release clause is like 30 million. There's a clause that Stuttgart can buy out the contract for 2 million, and then they can charge whatever price. I think if you can get Steeler for 60 million, I think you go and get him, and I think possibly that could be the look. I'm not saying that we will, but I think that could be the one. So look, what what year was it when you first computer? Also, was it earlier than when you picked up a football? I picked up a football probably when I was about 3. I also picked up a computer probably when I was about 4 or 5. Just to give you a little bit about me, my dad is a coder. So I started to do all that from a very, very young age. I am not the best at it because it's something that I stopped. But I'm very, very fortunate that my dad was very much into computers. And when did I pick up my first football? I picked up my first football in 1986, 87, and I probably tapped on a keyboard probably when in about 89. So I've been both computers and sport for a very, very long time. They've said Xerxes is a big one for me. What's going on there? One of my mates from school is now in the SAS. My other mates is in the paratroopers. Steele would be the main target. Nice one. Steele isn't a DM though. It was awful. You're super talented. Live to play but can't get on the pitch. So look. So one of the things to think about, and I've said this quite a lot now, is that when we're thinking about our midfield and how Amorim sets up our midfield, Amorim doesn't want a DM necessarily, right? Amorim wants 2 centre midfield players. One can be more defensive than the other one, but he wants 2 decent defensive, an all-round action. What he wants is, you've got to imagine our midfield now as 2 lanes, right? Like wingers, but in the centre of the park. And what I mean by that is he pretty much sort of wants box to box. He wants up and down. They got together. They can back together. One covers or one goes back. So they can both do this pretty much the same things. If one's a better passer, that's fine. One's more of a defensive minded, that's fine. Dino, become a member, my friend. Dino, legend. Welcome to the members club. Absolute legend, mate. What can I say? Absolute legend. And again, guys, it's all there. Super chats, everything is in there as well. Get in there. Dino, legend. What can you say, my friend? Guys, it's all in there. Supporting this channel means more to me than you'll ever know. And the fact that you're willing to become members is amazing. So yeah, Dino, mate, legend, and thank you, and Dino, yeah, absolute legend, my friend. So when we're talking about midfield players, we've got to be very, very careful. Is that we are not talking about CMs and defensive midfielders and attacking midfielders. That's what the number 10s are. Then the number 10s are those are more those attacking midfielders who can come back and come deep. But the 2 CMs, we don't play necessarily defensive. We what he wants is an all-rounder who can, and the most important thing is a versatile up and down centre midfielder that can do both. And this is what we need to get away from and understand in this system, is we don't have DMs, CMs. You can have one more slightly defensive than the other one, but what he wants these 2 athletic, 2 up and down mentality players. And Steele 100% fits that. So I think for me, Steele and Anderson, so whether you go and get Steele now. So look, going back to Fabrizio. Second. No. All good. Right. Let's go. Come on.
Okay, but Daddy, wait. I'm trying to get my stuff.
Come on. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's wait a while.
Oh, things you do, honestly. Things you do. Right. This look. And Obama says, hi, bro, set out your stall exactly. Who would your dream midfielder? I will, Bobby. Let's have a look. It's Monopoly time again. Okay, it's cool. So look. So where am I on my midfield? Okay, so if I was gonna pick, so there's a choice of 3. Okay. Amorim's gonna play 2. So what I would do, I would probably go for more of an ultra defensive midfielder right now. That could be wrong. But I would probably go for a Anderson as an all-rounder who plays where Casemiro plays, but I would play him in that role as the number 6. But he's not doing the number 6 role. He's not a defensive midfielder. He's an all-rounder action midfielder. And then I'd go for Stiller. So I'd go for those 2. Now, failing that, I think Baleba would probably be the one still for me. Now, I'd want to see how he progresses through the season. For me, I would still go. I want that tenacious, high energy, young, high tackling midfielder, or at least there's something that he can do. So the two that I would go for would be Anderson, and I'd go for Stiller as well. So Fabrizio, let's just quickly go back on that. So we've got Fabrizio. And we can come on to the fixtures as well, because I think that next part of that is I do think we need to be realistic as well in terms of where we finish this season. Grab that as well, and we'll come back to what Fabrizio said as well. Okay. All right. Okay, so where are we? Cool, that's where we are. Okay, cool. So Fabrizio basically saying as well with that Amorim is talking to the board. So Rúben Amorim and the board are talking apparently to discuss targets. Now, what's scary about that for me is I would like to have thought that they would already identify targets, already know exactly who they're talking to. Know exactly who they're talking to, know exactly, what they're looking at. But according to Fabrizio, they're only starting to talk, and again, they're talking about these players who need some games. And they're coming back onto the Xerxes question as well. Do I think Xerxes will go online? Now, I think Xerxes' problem for me, the reason why I think Amorim may keep him is because we don't have another striker. Now, I think Xerxes, I don't think Amorim fancies him as a number 10. Anyone remember when you were... I'm going to sound like a right twat now, but I was all right. I was always small and quick, so I was all right. Shesko is better than Xerxes. He is. But the problem is for me now is we've got this situation. I think Xerxes finds himself in a situation whereby we've got a bunch of number 10s. We've got a load of number 10s. So Ahmad can play there. Mason Mount can play there. Cunha and Bumo can play there. Bruno can play there. Right now. The problem that we got is that we're not going to buy a load of players in the next window. Mark Stewart, hello my friend, I hope you're doing extremely well. So I think if Amorim gets a player, it's going to be a midfield player. So the problem for Xerxes is that because we've got Mason Mount, who will probably get injured yet again, players going to go to the AFCON. So that's 2-3 players down. So what that means is that we're going to have to keep Xerxes either a number 10, or a striker. So I don't think Xerxes will be allowed to go anywhere unless we can get a replacement striker in, which I don't think will happen. I think I'm with Mark. I'd like a wing back as well. I think we absolutely need a centre midfielder. I think it's pivotal, but I also think we need a wing back as well. I don't think we're going to get both, so I'm hoping that we get a centre midfielder. So I think, and then now when we look into the fixtures, so the next fixtures are Spurs away, Everton at home, Crystal Palace away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, Aston Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves. Then we've got Wolves at home. There are no easy games. There are no easy games. The Nothing Guy says Rashford is Quandle Dingle. Okay. DJ says at school I went from playing like Giggsy to being stuck in goal on a cold winter's day. Like Anana, I was too short for goal. So performances of Dalot, we definitely need a new wing back because Amrin clearly doesn't trust Dorgu to start. And Dino, and again, you make a good point. So just quickly going back to Romano. Look, Romano is putting it out there now, and I don't know if this is from the club or from Rúben, is that basically we are looking at permanent signings. I think I would, and this is just a hunch, this is just a feeling, that I think that we will go for Steeler. Whether or not we get him, I don't know, but I think we will go for Steeler. And again, I think Stuttgart Champions League. I think they're on I don't know what they're doing in the Bundesliga, but I think we make a move for Steeler. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But I suspect that we do now. I do think we need a wing back as well. I think that's a summer one, and unless something happens. Now to the end, when we're talking about the window, so look, we seem to be pushing things down to the next window. Now the reasoning for that, and I think Fabrizio did say this as well, is that there's a World Cup happening. Right, so as we know, the World Cup is happening, and people don't traditionally sign early doors. So what we are going to find is that transfers are being done probably August, right? Whilst teams are getting knocked out of the World Cup, and then of course they then go on their break, and then they come back, etc. Blah blah blah. Now the problem with that. Dia says, do you think that we might bid for Anderson in the next window? Yes, I do. Now, apparently, according to loads of reports, that the groundwork's being done now. The groundwork is being done now. Michael says, afternoon, Devils, good afternoon. The groundwork is being done now. And I think any competent club would be doing the groundwork now. I think you have to. And you've got to go and do the groundwork now to get the player to at least say, look, I want to come to you. Whether or not he does, you can't wait till next year to go and do those talks. You have to get the player the buy now. Whether or not you sign him, that's a different thing. So I do think we are. I think we will be in talks. Forest will not entertain anything right now, and I do think Forest know they're going to have a bidding war next season. Now the problem with the World Cup is that there's going to be a backlog. There's not going to be many deals to be done. One of the factors that we need to consider, this is really, really important, is that the way that we do business, we wait until the next financial year to do our deals. So the reason why I think that we may push a load of this down the line. Now, what I would do if I'd be clever and go, look, let's push one of our summer signings up to this window, because we've got the money there, we've got the savings there, we've got the money there from the wages saved from the players that we're going to sell, the players that will be sold. Let's go and get one of those now, because I think if we're asking this club to go and get 2 midfield signs, bearing in mind how long. So to bear in mind this window, we're not going to have from when the transfer window opens or before until August, because there's a World Cup. And you look at how long it took us to do these deals. There is no way that we're going to get rid of some more of these players, going to get a wing back. We probably need a wing back centre midfielder. Probably a defender. We need 2 centre midfielders, probably another striker. There is no way that we can get any of that done in the reduced window because there's a World Cup. So I think we need to bring one of these signings forward now, and you go and get that signing now. Honestly, people just need to leave me alone. So I think we need to bring one of these signings forward, and I'm really hoping that the club can think in terms of that. Now it's going to be really, really difficult to get Premier League players. I think it's going to be difficult to get any players, but if you want a player mid-season, I think you need to go and get him. So I think for me, Steeler. Now Guehi, I brought him into this conversation because I think there are rumours again linking us to the player. He's going to be free next summer. Right now, Guehi, whatever you think about him, he's 25 years old. Liverpool were there. Do I still think he'll go to Liverpool? Yes, I do. I think more than ever. I think Liverpool have shown an interest in him, and I think that is where he'll go. Do I think to wait for a free? Probably not. Will you get him on a reduced price? Yes. I think we need to be in. I think we need to be in and around that chat. I think Guehi, as much as I think he is a centre back, I think you could put him as a right wing back for now. I think that he could be one for the future. I think you could get him at a good price. I would go get him. I like Guehi. I think he's pace, power. I think he's proved it time and time again. I like the attitude of the player. He didn't get his move. It wasn't like he was pissy about it. It wasn't like he moaned, whinged, cried. Didn't then want to play. I like him a lot, and I think that I would absolutely go and see if we could go and pick up this player. Just go and do a deal. Just if even if you paid 25 million for him, I think he's worth that. So there are rumours starting to link him. 25 years old, very, very good at actually driving the ball forward. Very, very, very good at progressive runs, taking the ball forward, tackling wise. Sounds weird. Not the best from what I've seen. But I think for me, he's a player that would be very, very interesting, and I think that you would bring him in, and I think he could do a job for now. And then would you incorporate him in as one of the centre backs? I think he'd be very, very good in a back three as well as he's playing now. So I think for me, I think you would go and try to get into the race. Dina says we need to shore up the defence. Exactly, I agree. I would say our most important signing now is a replacement for right centre back to make sure Dalot never plays again. Just hope we don't end up at Liverpool. I think he might do, and I don't do social media because cool. Only way to convince Guehi to join is a top contract and first team football. JB, do you think Rasmus was hard done by because he's now free scoring, and on the other hand, Šeško is starting to look like Rasmus did? Dino, I'll come back to that. Yeah, I will come back to that. Fair enough. I haven't watched Steeler, to be honest, so the jury's still out there for me, but I'll go and have a look. Should be swapping Dalot for Guehi and Jan. Dalot and Show need to go. Had to have been gone already. Do you think England is going to win the World Cup? The Comedy Hut. I'll answer that very, very fast. England have got the players to do it. Do I think they'll win the World Cup? I don't know. I think I think Spain are a good team. I think you can argue Spain, Germany coming back into it as well. Obviously you've got Argentina, Brazil. It depends. Am I bothered if England win the World Cup? Don't shoot me for this. I'm Welsh, so I've got no skin in the game. I will support England. I will, and I will congratulate England if they win the World Cup. But I can't be a hypocrite and a glory hunter. I'm not English, so I would congratulate if England won the World Cup. but it wouldn't mean the same to me as it does to everyone else on here, because I'm simply I'm from Wales. But I will support England, and hopefully they can win a World Cup. Finally, what was the other one I was going to come back to? Okay, so Rasmus. Do I think Rasmus was hard done by? I think we failed him. I think as a club, I think we failed him to bring in a player that age, to expect him to lead the line. And again, I'll be consistent on what I've always said about him, is that there is only a limited number of players at that age who could lead a line for a club like ours. I've only ever seen Rooney at a young age be able to lead the line for us. I can't really tell you anybody else at that age, in my opinion, that could do that. So I think it was what we should have done is already had a striker, not necessarily coming to the end, but who could have taught him, and then you bring him in on big cash because you believe he's going to be the next big thing. So you bring him in. You look at Alvarez for Atletico. They still have players there, very experienced players there. They brought him in for big money, and you look at him now. What should have happened is we should have had the likes of a I don't know, like Wayne Rooney coming to the end. The likes of a Ruud van Nistelrooy coming to the end. Not that we saw that, but we should have had one of those world class strikers coming to the end. Zlatan even. And then you bring him in a season or two before they're going to leave. You bring Rasmus in to a side that is full of people who can support him. We just didn't have that. None of these young players who've come into this squad are able to do that, because I've always said this, is that we don't have a team to give them the confidence to let them make mistakes. We don't have a fan base who lets young players make mistakes. Xerxes come into this squad, and because he wasn't prime Cristiano when he came into this squad, Xerxes was here. I think we failed Xerxes more. Xerxes was here for a couple of weeks and people were calling him a flop. I mean, the kid barely got a touch of the ball. His manager got sacked. He's got no experience around him. Toxic players around him. Low IQ, low mentality players, as we still see to this day, who are still here. And no wonder these kids fail. No wonder Xerxes not failing, but he can't get into this squad. No wonder Rasmus can never get into the squad. And what you're seeing with Rasmus Højlund is you're seeing someone who's gone to a club with extreme professionals. Whatever you think about the league, take that out of your head. He's in there with professional players, a coach who's driving these players in a club that's trying to drive success. High mentality, highly, these experienced players, and they are allowing him to flourish. And that's the difference. We failed him as we failed many players. We failed so many players in this club. And I think this is why you're seeing Amorim now trying to change the culture around, is we're trying to get players in. Now, we're going for Premier League proven experience. So when we do bring in youth players, they've got something to come into. They've got not only do they have teammates, but they've got a mentor. They've got players around there who will support them. Imagine coming into a team with Roy Keane, right? Scholesy, right? They will absolutely cane you if you do wrong passes, if you do things wrong, if you don't attain the standards of this club, you get absolutely destroyed. But what you will get in return for hard work is you get players around you who will run through a brick wall. You'll get players around you who have your back. You get players around you that, if you go to Arsenal away and you've got Keown and you've got Adams and you've got all these like Henry and you've got these players who are coming at you, these guys are going to have your back. So this is why we fail. It's because we simply don't have these players anymore. So we've failed him. We've failed our players at this club for a decade. I haven't watched Stiller yet. So I could go. England got the players, but not the coach. Bobby, let's have a look. Yeah, it was a very ambiguous question, but I agree. No, because we are always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Nice. Did you ever get your hands on him? Why would you not look at Tony? I think we should look at Tony. I do. I really do. Rasmus was suffocated by midfield creativity. He was lose to zero sympathy. I would have loved Haaland to be playing with the current. Yeah, I agree. Go on, lad. Xerxes will be able to play on the left side 10. Cunha false 9. What's your prediction for Madrid via Liverpool? Not that I'm overly bothered, but I think it will probably be a draw. I do. I want to keep Rasmus for another year in Xerxes. When Burmo leaves for the AFCON, who we're going to see Xerxes do his thing. The problem is, but I don't think Xerxes got a thing. Mark, I mean, I like Xerxes, but I don't know. Is some players need a bunch of games. And I just hope if Xerxes gets his opportunity, I hope Xerxes can take his chance. I do. I really do. I just hope Xerxes can. I just hope Xerxes can as much as everybody does. Striker. I think that's his cards marked. Legends, or it was a chair mark. I think Hala Madrid. I don't know what's going on with this stream right now. Do you think the title race is a 2-horse race, City and Arsenal? So let's get on to that as well. So Liverpool won again. I think as we saw City at the very start of the season, I've always said this: don't sleep on these teams. This is what I've always said. Even though Liverpool were losing, but if we look at this table, right? So you've got Arsenal on 25, City on 19, Liverpool on 18, Bournemouth 18, Spurs, Chelsea, Sunderland, United 17. Arsenal at the moment are running away with this, right? 5 wins on the bounce. City 3 on the bounce. City are scoring goals. I've said this: do not sleep on City. I think the top 3, as I've said all season, even though look, Liverpool lost 4 games on the bounce. Sorry, they lost 4 games and they've just won 1. They're only 7 points. They're only 7 points, like, adrift. I mean, Arsenal will have a bad patch. So I do think the top 3 or the top 4 are going to be Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and then one of Bournemouth, Spurs, United, possibly Crystal Palace. And I've always said this: don't sleep on City. They look to be a different team. I think it's at present Arsenal are sitting pretty, and I do think it could be. I do think it could absolutely be. I do think it absolutely could be a 2-horse race. But Liverpool, I'm not that far behind. Shit places. Hi, hello. I hope you're doing extremely, extremely well. Let's have a look. Xerxes is going to build some momentum. So yeah. What else have I got? Romano, Delo, Guehi. We've gone through Guehi. So the other thing I wanted to talk about as well, so I wanted maybe to spend a little bit of time on this, and you can give me your opinions on this as well. Is look, last week, everybody and their dog was talking about United in a title race. We're talking about United in a top 4 race. Right now, top 4 races is I would say is more of a realistic expectation, and only in terms of when we're talking about a title race. Guehi would be a great option to replace and Tulip, and that's exactly my opinion. I do think that Guehi at that price, for me, 25 years old, would be the absolute one that I would absolutely pick. And when we are talking about this top 3 now, last week one of the things I complained about a lot and moaned about a lot was Chip says Shaw's been fit and okay so far. If he keeps going like this, he might be able to sell him in. And Tulip. And again, before I get into it, agreed. I think the positive thing for me here is that I would absolutely sell Luke Shaw next season. Get rid of this player. If he can stay fit, get rid of him. The problem is the wage again. The problem is he's on such high wages. I don't know how long his contract is for. Let me take a look. Luke Shaw contract. Luke Shaw's contract. Luke Shaw's contract is until 20. So he signed a contract extension. I think he's got another 2 years to run on it. Let's give me it in USD. So he signed a contract 200k a week until June 2027. So next year, Luke Shaw has got a year left on his deal. Now, who's going to give Luke Shaw 200k a week? So we're going to also have that problem again, where are we going to have to? We're going to keep Luke Shaw for yet another year on 200k a week, or can we possibly loan him out or pay him off? So I think Luke Shaw, sadly, is going to be here for the next year and a bit. Emma says if Napoli pays up for Haaland in Jan, we should have the money to bring in at least one player. Problem is that we're not able to get the players that we really want. Top 4 would be a massive overachievement. Top 6 is doable. Would you take Theo Hernandez? Yes, I would. I would take him. Yes, I would take him. I think I would take. Yeah, I would. I would take Theo Hernandez any day of the week. I think that the problem that we've got now. Oh bloody hell! The problem that we've got now. The problem that we've got now is I think our back 4 is going through flux. I think our back 4 is, as I've always said all season, and I'll keep saying it, it's really, really simple. I think there's a problem between the left and the right centre back and the wing backs. There's a gaping hole, and teams target that, and they've been doing it since pre-season. And until we get wing backs, I think we are going to struggle. Oh bloody hell! Woo! Fire alarm test. Apparently, Jesus. Just open a window. Don't know what that's been set off. Here we go. Let's do that. Woo! Jesus. Woo! Talking about these players has obviously set off the alarm. Honestly, honestly, the string today. I don't know what has happened for the comedy value of this string today. What's your early score prediction for Spurs? What's my prediction for Spurs? What's my early prediction for Spurs? So, I need to try to be positive. I'm not going to predict a win because I'm just not going to. I think we've done historically in the last couple of games. I think we've done extremely badly against Spurs. I think what I'm about to say is based on the mentality. I think based on the results against Spurs last season, based on that final, based on the characteristics of these players, based on how I know these players will wilt, based on I think Spurs know that they have to win. In inconsistent form under Frank, I think they'll be up for this game. I think that we lose to Spurs. I hate saying it. I just don't trust this team. This is based on last season. Based on I think Spurs will be up for it. I think Spurs we will not be able to handle going away. We won't be able to handle expectation. We won't be able to. I don't think we'll be able to handle the pressure again. And I think we'll either draw or I think we'll lose. I think it'll be a very, very close game again. But I think that our mentality again, it depends. The problem for me in predicting scorelines for games is because I never know what he's gonna necessarily do with that back 3 or 5. I think he'll go to Spurs, and I think he'll go. And again, I think he could go Mason Mount. I think Shesko may not play. I think we go to Spurs, and I think we draw. I think we draw or lose. I think it's 50-50. I'm taking the win off of the table because I just don't think that right now. I think our mentality again is bruised. I think Amorim is very, very confused as to what he sees. This team is very, very inconsistent again. And I think we go to Spurs and draw. And it's based on last season. It's based on that final. I still think the scars are there. And I have to base it on, I think Amorim's going to play the same team again. So based on Amorim playing the same team, based on what happened last season, I think that we ultimately, I'm going to change it and say we draw a Spurs or we lose. I just don't see a win. It's horrible having no midweek games. I've started to watch United ladies. JB, Casemiro was another year option on his contract. What should we do? I think we should agree a 2-year extension with half his wages. We can't do the option because it will be on his current wages. What do I think with Casemiro? I don't want to give him a 2-year deal. I'd give him a rolling extension that gives us the option for a year. I think I'm tired of giving these players control of their contracts. I would give him a rolling year contract with an option of a year for us. So it means that if he does well, we'll give him the year. If not, then he doesn't get the year. I would give Casemiro another year, but it has to be on less than half wages. I can't give him 150k a week. I can't do it. For me, for Casemiro to stay, I would give him. It'd have to be 130k a week, rolling 1-year contract. If Casemiro wants a fixed 2-year contract, see you later. Not for me. Bobby says, I think it will be 2-1 to United. Shaw won't leave. No one will be able to match his wages. I'm going 5-3. Luke Shaw has no sell value, so he's going nowhere. If the price is set, Casemiro will go and must pack. Delory's bag. I agree. Him and Nuno Mendes are the best left back in the world from PSG. I like him. Mendes is brilliant. Mendes is fantastic. More holes in a block of Swiss cheese. The rice is nearly ready. JB burning his dinner. Don't know what's going on, mate. Someone spliffed up in the bedroom. No, mate. I'm far too sensible for that. JB showing us your towel flapping skills. I know, right? Legend. Thought it was my house. I'm predicting 2-1. We have some momentum. Time to get revenge. Plus Spurs will play midweek in Europe. Truth and honestly, JB, that's why we tune into your channel. It's an away game. It may be 1-1. Preston Reed's only Monday. I think he goes more defensive and plays on the counter. And tell him to take it or leave it. Hello, are you? I'm good. Casemiro. Yeah. So look, guys. One of the things that, and again, this is going to feed into the expectations. What is the favourite team? United is the favourite team. So I think before I go, one of the things that I wanted to basically say is, look, this is not about being pessimistic, right? But I also, at the same time, as I've tried to do today, which I'm hoping I've done reasonably well, is Red Crown says, hi, sir. Hello, Red Crown. Madrid got rid of Casemiro 3 years ago when they knew he was finished, and we've had him since. Steve, look, mate, you've made a fantastic point. Fantastic point. I cannot come back on it. Red Crown says, how's it going? I'm doing extremely well. I'm too sensible for that, says the actress to the bishop. Look, mate, I am probably one of the most straight-laced people. Doesn't mean that I judge people. My motto in life is basically, people. I don't judge people on the things that they do. Well, depends on what it is exactly, but people do like their own thing. I'm trying not to be critical of these players. Now, there's 2 players on the thumbnail. I don't think I've criticised them too much. Just all I'm going to say on this is, like, we know. I know what these players are. I've been saying all season. I agree with Dino. I think that DJ, you crack me up, mate. Has to give Maz a chance. Look, we don't know where we are. This team is still I'm really still trying to learn this league. I don't care what anybody says. He's still trying to learn this league. I don't think his decisions are always the best. I know what these players are. I've been saying it all season, and I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change my mind on these players. I'm not going to change my mind on this coach. This coach needs time to build a squad. Is Amorim the right guy? We don't know. Is the truth. There are glimpses where I think that he is the right guy. But is he going to get the time? I really, really hope he does. Right now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen, right? If we go to Spurs and we beat Spurs, right? What's going to happen? Those, as you guys have said, you've watched other channels out there, and no doubt for clicks. I've seen there's this particular girl, and I'm not saying it because she's a girl, and I'm not saying it because she's a Liverpool fan, and it just came into my feed, and she's, oh my god, she's a young girl, and she's on there crying, saying, Liverpool, oh, you need to sack this guy. Oh, slot, and she's crying. Oh, he's destroying this team. Oh, he's awful. He's shit. Oh, oh my god, it's the end of the world. Right? And I'm like, I get it. I do get it. But then now, because Liverpool have won, they're going to win the league again. And this is what our fan base is our fan base. And I don't know whether it's young fans or whether it's what our team. Thanks, Dino. In some respects, our team right now, Steve says we still have a petulant bomb squad: Malacia, Bruno, Maguire, and Shaw. Now, Steve, look, I valid opinion, and when I talk about opinions. I'll read your opinion out because I respect it. Doesn't mean how did the tripod perform? Sky, it didn't, mate. It didn't. Long story. The children have been ill, so doesn't happen, mate. Shockingly bad, mate. Anyway, so when we're talking about opinions, maybe I'll come back on your opinion, doesn't mean that I'm coming back on your opinion, but you do create a good point, right? When I think of our players now, I think we do have petulant players, but I don't think they're petulant in a way that they were before. So when we're looking at Garnacho and we look at Sancho, we look at Rashford, their arrogance and petulance were in a different way. I think what we're left with now is we're left with Bruno Fernandes, who's petulant not in a disrespectful way, but I just don't think he must be here. And I just think it's his footballing ways that are very, very petulant, and he's not, in my opinion, a captain. Maguire, I don't agree with you on Maguire. I don't think he's petulant at all. I personally would remove Maguire from that conversation, but that's your opinion, and I'm not going to take that out. I think Luke Shaw is arrogant and petulant on the basis that he walks back into the side. I mean, where's the repercussions for Luke Shaw, who couldn't be bothered to get into this team, but then there was a World Cup and he managed to get himself fit. There was a Euros and he managed to get himself fit for the Euros. So I think when we're talking about a bomb squad, I think it's a different type of bomb squad now. We don't have a bomb squad anymore. I think we have a slightly different type of players that they need to go. I think that a Delo needs to go. I don't think there's petulance. I just don't think he's good enough. And I think the arrogance comes from the coach picking him. Luke Shaw has to go, in my opinion. Maguire can go, but I don't class him as one of these players. I think Bruno, again, needs to go, for the betterment of the team. Malacia, I do think, needs to go as well. And then, again, I'm going to put Mason Mount into that as well. Not because he's in a bomb squad or because I think he's a petulant player. I think Mason Mount needs to go because he's never... Look, we've given Mason Mount the number 7 shirt. Mason Mount is not a number 7. Mason Mount is another one of these players that, in my opinion, has to go as well. So, Steve, I think it's a really, really interesting debate and a really interesting conversation. I don't like other channels. I subscribe to Liverpool, Arsenal, and have a great relationship with their subscribers. That's good. Fumbled, Mr. Mark, mate. Dino, I never miss my mark, mate. One question I would love to be answered by Amorim. What does Dillo do to be selected? Mark, you don't want to know, mate. It's friends, mate. Portuguese friends. Because it is that. It basically is that. It is that. De Ligt for captain, says Scott. I agree. De Ligt should be captain. We need leadership on the pitch. Bruno is a bit. Bruno is Bruno is not one to get into a scrap, is he? So I do agree with that. I love that. Mount has love for one club and it ain't United. Exactly, Steve. And I've never seen Mount as a United player. Look, there is a talented player there, but whether or not we're going to see that from Mount, I don't know. So, but guys, I'm going to go on that note. I'm going to go. Really interesting conversation. Obviously, I wasn't around yesterday, so I should be back tonight. I might be back tonight. Depends really on what comes out tonight. If not, again, I'll definitely be back tomorrow. But interesting conversations going on. I think what we are going to see now is we're going to see very, very much the same as we've seen. We're going to see up and down. If Amorim, for example, now if we go to this is not my Portuguese friends. It is Amorim must get serious. And Mark, I agree with you, mate. I am Amorim in, and I will support the manager. Right, that is where I'm at on it. But I've also said if there are decisions that he keeps making that are to, if there are decisions that he makes that are impactful to this club and this team, then there are questions that have to be asked. They have to be asked by me. They have to be asked by the fan base, because I don't know why he keeps picking these players. So, Martin Buchanan, the best centre-back ever. So I think there are many debating points to be had. I think after this weekend, I think the plus point, Scott is as eloquent as ever. I don't disagree. But I think what's good to come out of winning 3 games back to back and then a draw, but also a quite a bad draw, because you can have a good draw and a bad draw, and this was a bad draw, is then what you can then do is look back and go, look, now what can we take out of the last 4 games? I don't know who Gordon McQueen is, my friend, but rest in peace. I don't know who that is. That's a Portuguese management problem, I think. I'm not getting into all that, but yeah. So I think tonight, if I do a show tonight, I will let you know in the community tab. If I do a show tonight, tonight's show is going to be an open debate, right? I'll bring something in. I'll bring something into the show. I'll bring something onto the table, and then we can talk about whatever comes to mind tonight. So guys, on that note, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching another fantastic show. These shows get better and better and better. I'll be back tonight. If not, I'll let you guys know. It's a bit up and down with certain people. But yeah, thank you to Dino, becoming a member, Bobby, Scott, Dino, Mark, everybody in the chat. Amazing stuff, guys. Be back tomorrow. She'll be back tonight. If not, I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. As I always say, this show's nothing without you guys. You guys are the best community. We are the best. We're not the biggest, but we are the best. We're the most consistent, and you guys are legends. So guys, on that note, see you very, very soon. Take care, and I'll see you later on. See you later.